Welcome to the Soul Archaeology Podcast, a space for connection, resonance, witnessing, and learning. Together we'll harvest medicine from the spiral of life, sharing conversations with other embodied humans who have navigated their own initiations and found alignment with their true soul essence. With weekly astrology, energy updates, embodied conversation, and channeled teachings, this is a space for you to land and find resonance with the spiral of your own soul. Hello there, welcome back to Soul Archaeology. Happy new moon in Scorpio. It's a pretty powerful week. It's been a pretty powerful few weeks since we last did an energy update. I know in the last episode I had my friend Stephanie on, Stephanie Simbari, and it was so fun to chat with her and to hear how the episode resonated for all of you. I know that there are many That's So Retrograde fans out there, and perhaps people who have grown with that podcast, and hopefully you received some medicine from hearing Stephanie reflect and express and, just channel from her new place, her new embodiment. That's one of the reasons I wanted to have her on, is that she fully embodies her Scorpionic self, and we all have Scorpio within us. And it's timely to speak to this on this new moon in Scorpio. The Scorpio within all of us, our inner regenerative processes, the processes we all contain within us, the essence of our being, which is constantly rebirthing itself. It's constantly regenerating. And we have this beautiful understanding of this deep within us. We have this sort of understanding when we come to this planet, but we forget when we're born. We experience amnesia, but we have this understanding when we come here that this life will be ever changing. And that's really all we can trust. All we can count on is the ever changing nature of being human and the strong regenerative forces that invite us to constantly die and be reborn again. And if you have heavy Scorpio placements within your chart, if you have planets in Scorpio, or you have, a rising, if your ascendant is Scorpio, or if you have, a midheaven, significant placements in Scorpio, you have probably felt this building, especially over the last few years, while the South Node has been in that place, forcing us to surrender to this knowing that we are ever changing, always evolving. We're always being invited to give ourselves to the fires of alchemy. And if you've been feeling that, things might be coming to a head right now. If you have significant Scorpio placements, you might feel this pressure, this internal pressure building within you. And there certainly is a pressure building collectively. I think we can all feel that. When I sat down to channel this episode, when I sat down to sort of tune in to ground, to connect to source, to clear my own field, it was interesting because I just kept seeing a volcano. I always tune in and I ask, what does the soul archaeology community need to hear in this episode? What's the most timely, poignant message I can deliver? And I just kept seeing a volcano. And this message of surrender, of allowing yourself to be with the pressure, to give yourself fully to the fire of alchemy, to surrender to the transformation that you're being called into, to create space with what's arising. If you do have significant Scorpio placements, or you have your own planets that are aspecting the sun, Mars, and moon in Scorpio, or this the Mercury that just entered into Sagittarius, which is also adding some heat to the fire, then you are probably feeling certain themes come forward depending on where it's landing in your chart and depending on what you're navigating on the physical plane. But this pressure is asking for something to give way, to release, to let go. Perhaps it's, your ego. Perhaps it's a pattern that has kept you quote unquote safe for quite some time. I feel that this new moon is very tied to the South Node transit we've had through Scorpio over the last 2 years. We're still in the integration phase of the eclipse portal. We had the full moon in Taurus, the lunar eclipse in Taurus on the 28th, which really opened up opportunities for us to really get clear on what it is we're working on, what it is we're releasing, what it is that we've, been navigating for 2 years that we're letting go of. And this is a time of closing one door and entering into another in so many different ways. And it can be confusing because there might be so many things you're navigating and so many patterns you're working through simultaneously, because we have so many sort of openings occurring, portals that are open. And what that really asks for us to do is to create enough space, presence, attunement to self, and anchoring to listen to what's coming through. What do we need to know? What do we need to see? What do we need to let go of in order to surrender to these fires, to this regenerative process of opening and closing, rupturing, repairing, dying, birthing? These processes that are part of the earth. We can look at it in the seasonal way. It is fall, so there's this decay occurring. There's this letting go of what we've grown, what we've created, and this trust and faith that what we're letting go of, even if we just created it, or even if we, didn't even bring it into full fruition, but had felt attached to it. Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a project, that we can let it go and trust that it will create the soil for the next thing that's meant to come through. Or perhaps it's a pattern you've held for a long time that you've felt unconsciously very attached to, that has created a sense of safety for you to a certain degree, but is no longer doing that, is now hindering you. Allowing yourself to witness that, to see it, to pay attention to it, and to give it up. Scorpio lives in its intensity. It requires us to find these intense points within us, to live in that space, but not to get consumed by it. So to elevate beyond the shadow of what we're experiencing, or the lower vibration of what we're experiencing, to sit, feel, process, transmute, integrate, and to rise above it. It's the phoenix rising above the ashes, and you are the phoenix. You are rising above the ashes of what has been to birth not only a new version of you, but a new frequency to anchor more light on this planet. And it's our responsibility as individuals in this collective wave to participate in this alchemical process, to orchestrate our own internal alchemy, to transform in the ways that we're being asked to give ourselves to the fire in order to be an anchor, to transmute our shadow to light, to be with it, to love it, to integrate it, and to shine a flashlight into the spaces that exist within us that we're afraid to touch. And one thing we can always count on Scorpio to do is to bring us to our depths. It lives in intensity, and its evolutionary focus is to regenerate, is to rebirth, is to change, right? So it won't allow us to live in these shadow spaces for too long. if there's something you're hiding from, if there's a pattern you're hiding from, or if you're hiding behind your ego in any way, this month will illuminate it. November is not a month we can hide within. I'm feeling this so strongly for myself. I have a Scorpio rising, so it's just, I mean, once again, I feel like I'm constantly rebirthing myself, rebirthing my identity. I'm letting go of attachments to the way things were, to people, to expectations, to old structures, old suits that I've worn. And it's, it's a lot. It's a lot for me to reckon with within this life, to always be constantly leaning into that rebirth cycle when I'm, naturally as humans, we grip to what's familiar and we do resist change. And Scorpio does not allow us to resist that change. It requires us to lean into it. And that takes quite a bit of healing. That takes quite a bit of growth. That takes quite a bit of self-attunement, self-regulation, space, presence, to notice the spaces within us that resist change. And so I'm always in this process of the discomfort of letting go of things that I had once found some sense of stability or safety or familiarity with. And I see that reflected in my human design as a manifesting generator. And with so many open centers, I'm constantly changing, evolving, shifting, growing, stretching, taking in new information, pulling that through my channel and allowing it to transform me. So the other thing I kept feeling within my field when I was sitting down to focus on this episode was the strong alignment within. So what's interesting is that I, feel like we have this wildly transformative portal that's opened. I mean, we've been in it, I think, since we were born, but we've felt the pressure building. It's almost like up until 2012, we had been sort of slowly building towards this growth, this evolutionary process, this portal that has opened. And since then, it's slowly started to speed up. And now we're at this point where we're experiencing the volcano erupting frequently. And it's a lot for our systems. Like I said, as humans, we tend to resist change. So it's a lot. It's sort of, heavy duty conditioning, boot camp for the soul in a way. And Earth School has we're in, testing period, I guess you could say. The pressure dial has been cranked. And what's interesting is when you think about a volcano, it's sort of an epicenter of change. It's a space for the depths to emerge, to be released. It's a decompression point, but it's also anchored to the earth. And so what's interesting is I pulled the card Mountain from the Untamed Elemental deck for this episode. And so it's sort of this interesting play between mountain and volcano. And the fact that a volcano creates a mountain, it builds a mountain. And we can also allow our growth spurts, our eruptions, our ruptures to strengthen us, to fortify us. So I just keep seeing this sort of magma. I guess it's lava when it's officially out of the earth, but magma lava coming from the center core through this volcanic eruption and hardening and solidifying the base of the mountain and the space around the mountain, and over time allowing it to grow, to fortify its connection to the earth. And even though it has these eruptions and it has these disruptions, it still grows and it still strengthens itself. Even though it's changing, it's strengthening. When you drive through the Pacific Northwest and you see the Cascades, the different volcanoes rising in the distance, it's so incredibly shocking and majestic at the same time. You can just feel the energy of that land, how it's a perfect example of the strength of these transformative processes and how everything is always constantly changing and evolving. And I do think the metaphor of the volcano is such a great one for Scorpio, because it's strong, it's resilient, it's majestic, but it's also ever changing, and it's seeking that. It's seeking decompression. It's seeking change. It's not seeking to stay the same. And I just invite all of you today to reflect, really this week, to reflect on where you're resisting change and how can you let go a little bit more? How can you release your grip on something, or admit that your ego has hijacked a specific scenario? I don't know if you've ever been in a space where you can in real time see your ego gripping to something. I've had that many different times, and more recently I can see it. It's almost like when I picture it, I picture my little inner child like gripping to something so intensely, because there's a fear of what happens if I let go. What does it look like to admit that something you've believed or something you've felt is no longer in alignment, or that you feel like something you've done has not been in your highest expression, or you feel like something has been wrong? What does it feel like to let go of that, to admit it to someone who can hold that and witness you in love? It's liberating. When we resist change, it is a contractive experience. It limits us. When we can lean into questioning, transforming, changing, evolving, it's liberation. It allows us the space to open up, to evolve in the way we need to move where we need to move to grow in the way we need to grow. If we're tight to our old beliefs or our old ways of doing things, or our old patterns or messaging, it limits us. And I think that if you think about, even a volcano, it's the minute it stops erupting, it stops growing. We have a Mars Cazimi happening on the 17th. So this is a really big time. We have Cazimis are essentially when there's a conjunction with the sun. So when a planet passes through the sun, it's in a space of illumination. If you think about the sun as sort of a light, if something passes right across the light, it gets illuminated. We can see it clearly. It also gets injected with life force, with power. And so if you think about Mars, the planet of action, courage, the planet of war, passing over the sun, passing through the sun, we'll say through the sun, there's an illumination, there's an empowerment of Mars itself. And we have a Mars Cazimi only every 2 years. So we have Venus and Mercury Cazimis more frequently, but with Mars, it's every 2 years. And we haven't had a Mars Cazimi in Scorpio since 1991. So this is an interesting time. This is a big time for Scorpio, for Mars. Mars and Scorpio love each other. That's the traditional ruler of Scorpio. And the modern ruler is Pluto. So we have actually an aspect to Pluto as well, this Cazimi. And so there's this incredible opening occurring, this injection of life force wherever this is landing in your chart. So looking at 25 degrees Scorpio in your chart, and this is where this axis point will occur. This is where the volcanic eruption, the emergence of what is needed to transform, fortify, grow, evolve, heighten your awareness. You will feel intensity within this space, especially with the new moon in Scorpio today on Monday, the 13th, and building towards the 17th. This is a really big week. This is a pressurized week as well. So notice where there's resistance to lean into the pressure. Notice where there's resistance to perhaps take charge of something within your life, to fully own it, to make a decision that feels scary or uncomfortable. We need that warrior energy of Mars in Scorpio, and it's different when it's in Aries. It's more expressive when it's in Aries. When it's in Scorpio, it's a little bit more calculated. And that's really what we need is the balance of the mind, the nervous system, to come to a space of empowerment and making decisions from a space of fearlessness and from an evolved space. So there's so much occurring in the world, of course, and this time is asking us to up-level, to evolve, to step into this new version of ourselves that we will be refining and building and working on and towards over the next few years. So when you think about this time, it's sort of like a big push. You know, it's a pressure cooker asking for us to really, really, really refine, to let go of, to release, to change and evolve, so that we can step into the new years. We can step into this next chapter with Pluto entering into Aquarius. And over the next few years, we have some of our outer planets moving into new signs. So this is big change. And what it's asking for us to do right now is to notice where we're gripping to the small things or the big things or the things that have kept us, safe over the last chapter. The card Mountain I pulled from the Untamed Elemental deck, which I love. I pull a lot from. And it's all about alignment. And it says, a vertical masterpiece of the natural world, Mountain obtains cosmic access and conducts the steadfast life force rooted in the center of the earth. He entices us with his ridges and vistas and demands coherence between conviction and action. He is proud of his statuesque prominence, embodying incorruptible dignity. Wisdom cultures have long been attracted to the wild embrace of mountains, range of summits and extreme climates, and the exploration of spiritual elevation and states of absolute consciousness. Mountain urges you to focus on your enlightenment, particularly as it relates to your spine, just as Mountain establishes a coherence of flow between planetary and cosmic energy. Your spine both avails you to the earth frequencies and ensures you have access to heightened wisdom. Maintaining healthy alignment in your vertebra will keep your body vital, your intuition activated, and your dignity intact. Our souls are honed by our physical systems, and your spine is an instrument through which you can manifest greatness. When it's balanced, immaculate alignment between conviction and action. Imbalanced, directionless, lacking clarity of focus, purpose, chronic back pain. And to bring into balance, activate your essential self by embodying Mountain's unwavering dignity and stillness. And I love this because if we think about what a mountain is it's formed through change. It's there because there has been some sort of change to the Earth's crust, either through volcanic activity or seismic activity. There's something that the Earth was asking for that needed to change. And we received these beautiful, majestic mountains from that. And so the more you allow yourself to change, the higher you grow, the closer to source you become, the more enlightened you become, the stronger you become. So I love using mountain and volcano as metaphors. And I think that there's a lot of change that will be occurring through this month and as we move into December. So I wanted to let all of you know that I am opening my mentorship container for 2024. I'm very, very excited about this. I've made a few shifts to the structure of it, so I'm really excited about the new format. And this is just my favorite way to work with people, so I always get excited when I open it up to a new group. I've had a lot of incredible clients over this year. Like, I can't even tell you, they've been dream clients, incredibly empowered, dedicated, pure, beautiful souls who have trusted me to walk with them through this path of transformation. And the reason I really created this mentorship is because there were points in my life, obviously being a Scorpio rising, that I would go through these big transformative change portals, and I couldn't really tell where I was within those spaces. And I realized that there's phases of transformation, and there's the beginning and the middle, the liminal, and there's the actual point of transformation, and then there's the other side. And so often we lose touch with, or we kind of lose our sight within those spaces, and it's wonderful to have a guide. So I realized I could have benefited from a guide through my transformative spaces, and realized that being who I am, having a Pluto in the first house, I'm here to guide and to help shine light within the spaces within you that perhaps are hard for you to see, or are seeking more light or more enlightenment. And I just love guiding women through transformation. So this container is meant to be a container of alchemy, of change, of empowerment. And I have had women get pregnant on the other side, start businesses, end and begin new relationships. There's so much that occurs within this time together. And I have a few spaces left for 2024. I'll be opening it up now for clarity calls. So if you're interested, feel free to message me, to email me. You can also go onto my website and book a clarity call through that avenue as well, or go into my link in bio on Instagram and book a little 30-minute call where we can kind of talk about what you're navigating and whether or not this is the right container for you. It's a merging of shamanic practices, quantum intuitive healing, evolutionary astrology, somatic practices to help you integrate, to find regulation, to allow the medicine to really land and sink in the way it wants to. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out. You can go onto my Podia or my link in bio and find all of the information there. There's a little tab that says mentorship. Thank you so much for your presence today. It was so wonderful connecting back to our energy updates, and I got some really, really wonderful requests for talking points and questions. So I'll just be sorting through those and kind of picking them up each week to go over. So thank you so much once again for all of your support. If you found this episode helpful, if you find the podcast helpful, I would love, love, love a subscription on iTunes or Spotify, a rating, a review. All of it is so helpful. When you share on social media, it's so helpful. I had a client today say that she has clients who she's referred to me and to the podcast, and they found it beneficial. And that is honestly the most rewarding insight to receive. I just am so grateful. So thank you for your presence, for being here, and have a beautiful week.